Welcome back, dear listeners, to the Friday Fly podcast, where we rank, recap, and review every horror movie in a given franchise. But right now, we are still on our holiday horror special episodes. And what are we talking about today, Frankie?
We're going to be talking about a 2015 film called Krampus.
Krampus. I'm Jumpscare Jeralyn, the Fright of the podcast.
And I'm Frankie. I'm the Flight of the podcast.
So yes, we're talking about Krampus, and it is directed by none other than Michael Dougherty. We have talked about him here on the podcast a couple months ago.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was the case until the end of the film when I saw his name in the credits.
I think I told you that he was the director.
Oh, I forgot. And sometimes you just be speaking. So I'm just like, oh, she's yapping in one ear, out the other.
Typical man.
However, I did quite enjoy. I did see the connection. Totally. Definitely, he has his own persona, his own voice. And you can tell that this is a Michael Dougherty film.
Good to know. Okay, so this movie was written by Todd Casey, Michael Dougherty himself, and Zach Shields, starring an all-star cast. Oh my God, it had so many big names.
I only really knew Adam Scott.
Get Out.
I love that movie. I only knew.
Oh yeah, that's a good movie.
Adam Scott, and I only know him from Parks and Rec, and I do enjoy him in that.
Okay, so Toni Collette, well-known actress. Another horror movie that she's known for. Well, I know her from The Sixth Sense as well, but she's also well known in this day and age for her role in Hereditary. She's the mother in that movie.
And that's a movie we'll probably cover eventually.
We will eventually get to it. Adam Scott, of course, everyone knows and loves him. He's typically the funny, goofy guy in a lot of movies,
He's
TV
good at
shows.
it.
He's very good at it. I think this might be the only horror movie, I believe, that I've personally seen him in.
I think he was great in it. However, I gotta say, he didn't really give a horror movie performance. He just kind of did the thing he usually does. And I think he's great in it, and I do enjoy it. But, he wasn't he didn't let out a scream, I feel barely in the whole movie.
I think he did a really good job of trying to, keep it together. Because I think that's what his character does.
Kind of grounds you.
Yeah. Another performance that I really enjoyed, because he plays an asshole so well. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so forgive me. But I think it's David Koechner or Koechner.
Koechner?
I don't know.
Koechner?
Fuck if I know. But he's in a lot of comedy films. Mm-hmm. I love him. He's always really goofy. Every time I see him pop up on a screen in a movie, I'm always like, there he is.
He looks very familiar. I quite like his haircut. I think his haircut is very charming. Okay,
that's a first. He is known for his roles in The Office. He played a quick character, a recurring character called named Todd Packer.
Is he he's the one that wears a gray suit and has he plays the drums in it?
What are you talking about?
I've never seen The Office.
No. That's somebody else.
He has a similar haircut though, at least.
Yeah, typical white guy with glasses or something like that. But I don't think Todd Packer, his character, himself has glasses. But he's
How would you feel if Patrick saw the movie with you and he was like, I like that guy's haircut. I think I might want that in 10 or 15 years. Would that work for you?
I'd say give it 10 to 15 years and it'll happen on its own, buddy.
Oh! God, got him.
Please don't do that on yourself willingly.
What? You don't like it?
No,
I think it's just a very traditional look.
That's for men who can't accept the fact that it won't grow at the top anymore.
Whoa. Are you saying that if it gets to that point, you should just shave it all off?
Yes. Why are you holding on to it? Let it go.
I think because it's a style. I think it's a look. It's a vibe. Some people talk about the horseshoe. I've never heard that until recently.
Horseshoe?
Yes. It's when you're bald, but only in a horseshoe shape on your head. So you get it on the sides and the backs and right in the middle. Yeah.
Yuck. To each their own. I know some men can't help it. They actually have so many remedies for it nowadays.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. I've always seen commercials for it growing up, and I always thought it was kind of cool. I don't know what. Sometimes they would have this weird spray stuff. I don't know if you remember seeing that growing up, where it would be before, and they'd see the top of the hair, and then they would spray the stuff on, and then it'd show the after, and it was
that's weird. I don't know how it does that. Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought it was kind of cool, and I was like, this is satisfying to watch. No. Allison Tolman. I haven't seen her in anything. She looks very familiar. I didn't do more research on it, guys. I'm gonna be honest. When I was trying to get everything together for this, my computer really shit the bed. Mm-hmm. And I was going to even show cool behind-the-scenes clips. And I was going to have really cool behind-the-scenes video clips. Can't show them today because could not retrieve them.
Yeah. But you're being tested by God.
I am.
And we're out here thriving regardless.
It's the quote from Bailey Sarian, God's testing me and I didn't study, you know?
Yeah. I will say I did like MJ Anthony.
Oh my God, he was
the little
adorable.
Kid.
I love him.
I thought he was so like, you know, we typically don't see a kid that's like charming in a sense of like innocence, but realistic. Like, you know, we watched Pilgrim earlier in the year and I really didn't like the bratty little kid in that movie. Yeah, you were
a hater.
Just because he seemed like an angel. The movie portrayed him as. But this movie instead like portrays this character as like, he's realistic. He's a kid. He's still holding on to his innocence. Like, I want to love Christmas. I want to believe in Santa Claus. And that does warm my heart, you know?
Well, I think also the fact that, like, he knows that he's not a perfect kid. Like, he knows that he also messes up. Like, in the beginning of the movie, which we get this killer opening sequence. I was going to ask what you thought about it because, of course, I couldn't help but notice whenever we watched Thanksgiving by Eli Roth, very similar opening sequence.
Yeah, it made me think because, honestly, this movie... If we take Thanksgiving, for example, that movie is sleek and it looks like a modern movie. Mm-hmm. But I think this one, even though it only came out like 8 years ago, I think it looks like it's from the 90s. I don't know if it's because of the cameras they use, if it's because a big part of it is lighting, especially in that opening shot.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you take the Black Friday scene at the grocery store from Thanksgiving, there's a lot of like blues. The tone of the colors is very saturated. Mm-hmm. Well, in this one, it's like warm and yellows, and the frame is larger too. I think Thanksgiving has a tighter frame, and this one's fuller. And just seeing that makes me think, oh, it makes me feel like it's an older movie. And part of that I do enjoy because it's easier to watch. And secondly, it's interesting because it made me think like, the whole Black Friday thing has probably been happening before Black Friday was big. It probably happens just in general over Christmas for Christmas shopping. There's a lot of sales over Christmas and people are hankering to get whatever they need to get and they'll do anything
before
for
the holiday. I mean, we've talked about it multiple times on this podcast. We are last minute kind of people.
For sure.
I would like to think that one day I could do it and I could plan ahead and have everything ready before Christmas.
Next year.
Next year's going to be my year because this year it ain't it already.
And I just think it's super cool to see the kind of the message of the film in the first scene where it's juxtapositioning the Christmas spirit, all the holiday. You see a big nutcracker, you see Christmas trees, you see Santa Claus. But in that environment, you have people fighting each other over this thing. So it kind of shows the fight between like current American culture versus traditional Christmas.
You know, capitalism, we love it.
Yeah.
It's also just really funny because we get to know some of our main characters and like we see Max. He's in a nativity play, like a nativity kind of recital thing, and he's fighting with another kid, and it's just really funny. And he's a fighter. Like, he was fighting dirty. Yeah. He took some fake snow, shoved it in the kid's face.
Yeah, I feel like you would be like that. I don't know if you ever got in a fight as a kid.
I've never gotten into a fight.
Really?
I run from fights. I'm
a
lover, not a fighter.
You give me scrappy vibes. Like,
what?
Like somebody would talk crap about something and you like, oh yeah, like Halloween's so lame. And that would, irk you. And then you'd shove them or something. See?
I wouldn't shove them. I would say... You are entitled to your opinion, but it is wrong. Okay. That's what I would say.
I've also never gotten into a fight. This kid, he looked like he was winning.
Scrappy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, get him. And I thought it was really funny that we see his sister like videotaping it, which is also really funny because I feel like in 2015, when this was released, we were not as on our phones as we are today.
But you know what's funny? At the time, it was like everybody's always on their phone. I'm sure still. But it's only gotten worse.
It's only gotten worse, and people literally. That's why Eli Roth satirized it a lot with the live stream, R.I.P. to the victims.
I love that.
That was so funny.
Comment, like, and subscribe.
So funny, so well done. But in this movie, we just see people recording it and laughing. That's what people would do nowadays. So it still holds up.
You don't think you'd do that though, right? Like if Dagan, was beating somebody up, you wouldn't just pull your phone out and start filming?
I am an anxious person, so no, I would not.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So Max is scrappy. Love him. MJ Anthony did a great job in this movie.
I agree.
His sister is played by Stefania Levy Owen. Fun fact about Stefania Levy Owen, she plays Beth. Her own younger sister was in this movie with her, playing Stevie, one of their cousins.
That's fun.
Which I noticed when I watched it this time. The first time I watched it, I didn't notice it. Mm-hmm. But this time when I was going back, I was like, they look strangely similar.
Yeah, that I like stuff like that. I don't know if you're familiar with the band Haim.
Yes.
It's an all-girl band. Yeah. They're all related. And recently, a couple years ago, there was this film that came out called Licorice Pizza.
Yeah.
Directed by somebody with 3 initials. Paul Thomas
Anderson, maybe? No?
PTA, that sounds right. Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson. He directed Licorice Pizza.
I think it's wrong.
No, I think that's right.
Don't quote me on that, friends.
And the lead actress was one of the people in the band, and they had a whole scene with their family, and they just brought in the rest of the band.
I love when they do stuff like that. That's fun. Queenie Samuel played Jordan, one of the younger kids as well. Sage Hunfield played the baby named Chrissy. Maverick Flack played Howie Jr. He did not have many lines in this movie. I think the only thing you hear him audibly say was him saying, "Dad, Dad."
Yeah. He reminded me a lot of the kid of Trick or Treat. So I don't know if Michael Dougherty looks out like he was, okay, I want this chubby little kid with curly hair. I think Michael Dougherty is like telling him, like, oh, I gotta have one of these kids in every movie.
And then we have Krista Stadler as Omi, and then Conchata Farrell as the Aunt Dorothy, which we've all seen her in a lot of things. She was in Edward Scissorhands. She was in 2.5 Men. Love her.
And hilarious, she plays the aunt. Mm-hmm. She's very pretty. I thought she was the prettiest person in the movie.
Really? I feel like, are you trolling me right now?
No, I genuinely thought she was very pretty. Why? Do you not agree?
Like the older Aunt Dorothy, the one who was
drinking. Her. No, sorry. the cousin's mom. No. I thought I meant Aunt for.
I was gonna be like, I really thought you were like being mean or something, like trolling me. And I was like,
well, first that's fucked up of you.
You're a guy and you're always joking. I can't tell.
Well, no, the other aunt, like MJ, Anthony's character's aunt, Max's aunt.
Okay, yes.
Not his great aunt.
What was her name?
Linda, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was also
Linda's
very pretty.
Yeah.
Very pretty. Yeah. So yes, moving on. There are a lot of really fun facts about this movie, and I'm just gonna put them out there, and then we're just gonna dive right in to a discussion about the movie and the different elements that I definitely want to hone in on.
Now, we're looking at the same outline.
Okay.
I see some words here, and I really, if you could do me and also the audience a favor, whenever like a German word comes across, I'd really like for you to like do your best German accent along with it. I
don't know
with confidence.
I don't know that that's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. I think everybody would appreciate it.
I'm so sorry to the listeners at home if this goes poorly. So yes, the movie was originally set to release on November 25th. It was pushed back to December 4th to coincide with Krampusnacht, a traditional Austrian festival held on December 5th that celebrates Krampus coming to punish naughty children. I don't know about you. I love it.
It's interesting. I remember being in elementary school.
Okay.
And seeing like we had a book. It would show so many different iterations of Santa Claus across the world. Yeah. Okay. And like we picture Santa, the American version of Santa doesn't wear the same kind of clothes as like the Austrian Santa.
That's really funny.
Or like they wear like, they'll all look very similar to each other as far as like the colors, or it's all roby. Or like, for example, our Santa Claus is very fat, typically.
Typically very fat.
In America, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But in other countries, he's not fat.
Well, yeah, he also is part of the Coca-Cola ad, so imagine that.
I'm not familiar.
Are you kidding?
No.
You didn't grow up like getting the 2-liter of Coca-Cola and noticing that Santa Claus was on it around Christmas time?
I remember the polar bears.
The polar bear was also another part of it, but Santa Claus was a huge part of like
the
branding. They even talk about it in Krampus, the movie.
I guess they kind of do, because he's like Pepsi. There's like Coke.
Yeah, I promise. Very, very interesting that you didn't know that. Okay.
You always hit me with that. You're like, I'm so American. You live a different lived experience of my American life.
That's not how it comes out, or how it's said in my brain.
Okay, let's start backtracking here.
Okay. So anyway, Krampus is a huge part of Austrian and German folklore.
That's right.
In my brain, it only had been known as German. I did not know it was also part of Austrian culture.
I know that those two countries have a lot to do with each other, have a long history with each other.
But it's really cool because I didn't know that, so that was something that I learned along the way. Our favorite composer, Douglas Pipes, described his music as a collection of twisted Christmas carols with pagan thrown in. He incorporated the sounds of chains, bells, bones, and animal skin drums into the score and had choirs chant and whisper in different tongues.
He's really good. He's
so
great.
Good.
He does a lot of I feel like a lot of what he puts out into the movies that he does is very classical. Mm-hmm. It's something that we don't see anymore. It's very orchestral. And I feel like after maybe, I don't know if it was The Dark Knight or The Social Network, but Hans Zimmer really change things. And while I do enjoy a lot of that, I love this kind of thing in this movie. It feels like a treat almost with the music.
It was just so good. We've talked about the word before. We've said it was whimsical with the other films that we've heard it in. And that's literally the best way that I can describe it, especially for this movie, because context of what we get and like how these things are not quite of our world. They are like other creatures. So quite literally, it was perfect that he threw in some of these whimsical things, and it really encompassed Christmas tones.
Yeah, I agree. I think it did a lot of setting the vibe, and I feel like this movie does have a strong vibe and aesthetic.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I would describe it personally. This movie kind of feels like, to me, The Labyrinth.
Okay.
It reminds me of The Labyrinth mixed with Where the Wild Things Are.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, especially like the elves give me very Labyrinth vibes. Yeah. And just in general, the monster nature. There's like a monster kind of vibe throughout the film.
Very cool that you bring that up. I will let you know they did use a puppet workshop called Weta Workshop. They did amazing work. They used part puppetry and so practical effects for the movie and part digital, but most of it was done practically, which I love. We love that.
Like I said, I think this movie goes out of its way almost to give an older vibe, a more classical vibe, like it was filmed in the 80s or the 90s, when really it was less than 10 years ago.
Which is wild, isn't that? It's coming up on a 10-year anniversary, because we are now about to approach 2024. Isn't that crazy?
Right around the corner. Yeah. You got any New Year's resolutions?
Not yet, but we'll have to talk about it when we discuss New Year's Evil. But yeah, so another really fun fact, the snow on the ground in the movie was made from material that's usually used for diapers. Sounds gross. In Max's letter to Santa Claus, his full name is Max Engel. The name Engel is the German word for angel. This hints at his family's Austrian heritage, which is really cool.
Yeah, I quite did like that this story had a bit of like culture, just ancestry. Too. You know, they speak German every once in a while in the film. Max knows German.
Yeah.
You know, and he translates it for everybody else and also us, the viewer.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really cool.
I loved it too, because I thought it was like really like, you don't hear, I feel like, especially in like big mainstream movies, you don't hear a lot of like other languages. Yeah,
and there's not a lot of other culture. And I think people should embrace their ancestry. You know, I know that you speak a couple different languages. You speak English when we do the podcast. When you go home, you start hitting like this other vernacular that I don't quite understand sometimes, but I do enjoy. Hillbilly speak, as they say in some places.
Oh my God, I knew it. No, I don't speak any other languages, unfortunately. I know just very, very little, enough to get by, essentially, like just like the beginnings of a the intro of a conversation.
Howdy, y'all.
But in Spanish and French, I know like very little.
Can you give me something in French real quick?
Bonjour, comment allez-vous? Je m'appelle Jeralyn. Très bien.
Oh, wow.
Comme ci, comme ça.
You could go over there and you'd have an easy time, probably.
No, they'd be like, get out of here thing. But, you know, different cultures. I like to see that represented in mainstream movies.
I love it. I mean, that's important to me.
Yeah.
Like if I go out to make films and stuff, and I'm always interested to bring my culture into it, to make, you know, I'm Mexican, I'm a very proud Mexican, and I'd love that to be featured in films. I know, like, for example, from Key and Peele, one of them went on to direct a lot of horror films, and he's gone on to say, like, I'm not very he casts black actors in his film. Yeah. He has black people on his crew, and he has said on the interviews before he's not really interested in making movies that are specifically geared towards white people because there's already a lot of that. And
you know what's funny about that is, like, I am 1000% on board with it, but so many people are so against it. They're like, he doesn't like white people. I'm like, where did you get that from that?
Literally, you just want to show up. I mean, if nobody else is doing the thing to represent your group of people, why have it not be you? You know, I figure the same thing with you. If you did any of this kind of thing, you would want to involve a lot of Southerners and a lot of rednecks and just bring over, because we don't get to see a lot of
I would like to involve a lot of my talented friends that I know would do well in the industries, and I know what their niches are. I would put them in their spots that I know they would shine the greatest, and we could have a really good, like, compact, like, everyone shining at their brightest. But mostly, of course, I would want to include women. You don't have a lot of women in the industry.
You're right, yeah. And I know, like, somebody like Margot Robbie has a production company where she specifically hires women to work these jobs because, like you said, it's an underrepresented group. The interest is there.
Yeah.
They just don't get hired.
Some more facts about the movie. Omi, who was the grandmother, Omi was deaf in the first draft of the script as opposed to Austrian. Don't really understand what that means in context, but they switched it in part for the cultural connection to Krampus instead.
I can kind of see that. Like, I think the whole point of Omi's character was like the whole, like, I saw this happen and I have the history. Maybe what they were trying to inflect was just that narratively, there would be like the reason that she wasn't taken was because she was deaf, or maybe she slept through what was going on and that's the reason she stayed up.
Oh, yeah, I can
but
see that.
But I
then.
do like the switch, though. I do. Because like I said, I like the cultural impact of the story.
Right. Me too. I agree. One of the few notes they received more than once from the studio was to cut back on the baby crying.
Thank God. You know, a lot of people do have that aversion to like just kids being in these precarious situations.
You know, I'm not anti-kids in horror movies, but I am anti-babies in horror movies.
Are you? I saw a thread on Facebook about people talking about that like they couldn't go see the FNAF movie because the Abby was in it and they didn't want to see any kids be injured or anything. And I know people have the same thing with pets. I also don't like watching a movie where pets get hurt, and this one pet gets eaten.
The dog does die in this one, guys. Yeah, and I don't like knowing that like animals or babies get hurt, but like kids, not like toddlers and above, it's fine because at that age, I don't know, I feel like babies acting, it's just different because I don't know what their like awareness is, so it's just a little bit weird, but I'm not like, anti babies in movies per se. I just think that sometimes the horror stuff might be a little bit too much for them.
Well, even outside of horror, I know that when me and Bailey went to go see The Flash this year, there's a scene early on in the beginning where like a hospital's burning down and a bunch of babies inside there, like...
I did see that in the trailer.
They fall out of the window, right?
Yeah.
And so it's played as a joke where the Flash now has to save all the babies falling from the building. But I know to a lot of parents and to Bailey, that made her uncomfortable. She's like, oh, I mean, these are like CGI babies that are very clearly not real babies. But still, I mean, to save one of the babies, he put one of them in a microwave. Obviously, it was like disconnected. It was turned off. That it was supposed to be funny. But she was like, oh, no, like, I do not want to see that.
Oh, that's scary. Someone's going to forget. They go, my baby. Oh,
so I get the aversion.
It's not so much an aversion. It's just like a strange territory.
She was taken away.
She was taken away, that was a scary thing. I did not like that. And the fact that like the mom was just trying to run after the baby and her husband, Howard, was like stopping her and he's like not letting her, you best let me go. Oh my God. Like gave me anxiety.
This movie did give me a lot of questioning things where there's a lot of scenes where somebody's taken away in the family.
Yes.
And you have to get used to it. Yeah. And you have to just like apply yourself to like, okay, what's next? And so there's some scenes where characters are like, I have to go after them. So, you know, they get ready to go. But honestly, the smart thing is like, no, we have all these other people still here that we need to figure out, you know? So unfortunately, you have to let it go.
It's so hard because we've discussed this in like other movies, like in Texas Chainsaw, stuff like that, where it's like, okay, you have your freedom, but then you also hear your friend back there. So then you go back there because that's what the right thing to do in your brain is. My brain would always want to do the right thing and go after the person.
Yeah, but there you're struggling though. There's competing. You have two other kids here who are still safe and sound. Are you going to risk their departure too to go after the one?
Yeah, it's a tough decision. I don't know what I would do in that situation. Glad I'm not in it, but that's also because I believe. Do you still believe?
I've always believed. I don't even acknowledge the other half of it. You know what I mean?
You don't acknowledge Krampus?
No, just that there is no Santa.
In the movie, Max shares some candy with with his Halloween stash to comfort his cousins. Inside, you can see a lollipop identical to the one used as a weapon by the demonic child Sam from Michael Dougherty's movie Trick or Treat.
I like that. You know, a little nod. You know, I'd love to see Sam Hain come back. And we've been talking about, you know, maybe there'll be a sequel in the future. So
I will let you know because I forgot to write it down in here.
Okay.
There is also some rumor that there will be a Krampus 2.
This movie is beloved, right? Like I've never seen this movie before. This is the first time I'm watching it, but I've heard of Krampus before. I've heard. I think it has a strong brand. A lot of people enjoy this movie, as far as I'm aware. So I'm not surprised.
A lot of people do enjoy it. I personally enjoy it a lot. When it came out, I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, it sucked," but I'm just like, "You're a fucking hater, bro."
Well, I do have some notes, and we'll get to that if we ever, you know, at some point we'll talk about the ending of this film, and I'll give you my personal opinions on it. But we'll get there when we get there.
Because I also am not a huge fan of the ending, but there are some interpretations that people have made.
It's
which
very
is pretty cool.
interpret friendly.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the film, the TV in the kitchen is showing a news broadcast with the scroll saying "Season's Greetings." "Season's Greetings" was a 1996 animated short film created and directed by Michael Dougherty that introduced Sam, the demonic Halloween spirit, from Trick or Treat.
Yeah, a lot of references to Trick or Treat.
Because that's his baby.
I like that.
But I love that he's playing around with the holiday horror. I want to see more from Michael Dougherty. I want to see him do a really creepy Easter movie too. I feel like
you're saying he should be like the holiday horror guy.
He should be the holiday horror man.
Easter already has a lot of creepy things around. It's talking about a bunny. They have those beady red eyes. So I can see him do
a bunny.
Very strange. Yeah, I'm unsettled by rabbits, I'd say.
Really?
And they have 200 babies at a time.
I don't like that.
See, yeah, they can run over.
Okay, you got me there. This movie was dedicated in loving memory of director Michael Dougherty's mother, Ramona Grace Dougherty.
That's very sweet. I love my mother. So,
I also love my mother.
I watched a clip earlier today about somebody. It was a compilation of people giving speeches at award shows, and a lot of them were. This compilation specifically was people praising their father and being like, "Oh, thank you, Dad. You did this for me. I wouldn't be here without you." And I'm somebody who doesn't have a relationship with my father, and so I was thinking if that was me, because I do intend to win awards in the future.
We will.
I would be thanking my mom because I love my mom so dearly. She's the one that raised me and she's important to me. So I just envisioned myself in thanking my mom. So I think it's really sweet that Michael Dougherty, did that for his mother.
I think so too. I like it a lot. When Tom speaks with his mother, he does not speak standard German, but Austrian dialect. The Krampus is most associated with Austria as well. So that's super fun. Max's advent calendar, which I absolutely love in this movie. It's really cool.
I didn't know what an advent calendar was until very recently.
What?
Yes, last year.
Countdown.
Yeah, I think it's in a movie. It's in a movie that I saw, probably a Christmas movie, of course. And
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. They did it.
That's probably the first time, a couple years ago when I watched it, and I was like, "Oh, it is really neat." But I'd really like to make one, really, and give it to somebody else.
Yeah, Okay, so a really funny story. Okay, I didn't intend for it to be funny. It was one of those sketchy Facebook
I didn't
ads.
intend to be funny.
I'm gonna have to get my friend to send me the video because it was the funniest thing I've ever witnessed. So I saw this ad on Facebook for an Animal Crossing advent calendar, and my friend.
Oh, nice.
is a really big Animal Crossing fan. She loves all of those kind of games, like Stardew Valley, that kind of thing. Well, I knew that right at the moment she was really into Animal Crossing the most. So I had a bunch of Animal Crossing themed gifts for Christmas for her. And it was a countdown, advent calendar thing for Christmas. And I was like, perfect, I'm going to get that for her. Well, it arrives, and it arrives in it almost kind of looks like, the best way I can describe it, little, it kind of looked like a fake kid toolbox with different compartment, little boxes in there, but you don't see it it has one big lid thing, and it opened, and then it was a white thing, and it had a clear lid, and then it had different compartments for the different advent calendar things, right? Wow. But it had a sealed Animal Crossing thing around the top, so almost kind of a little sticker thing,
right?
So then she starts opening some of them, and she's like, okay, well, it's already so many days to Christmas, so I'm going to go ahead and start opening them. Tell me why not many of them are actually Animal Crossing things. Random things, teeny tiny My Little Ponies, and random Spider-Man things.
Yeah. That's mom saying we got an advent calendar at home. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not legit.
It was the funniest thing because it made no sense.
Yeah.
I think maybe...
Wasn't officially licensed.
Yeah, it wasn't officially... I fell for it. Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't get scammed, but I kind of did, if you're being honest.
I feel like you didn't get scammed.
But I did. I still received something, and you know what? She'll never have a different I think it worked out better because
at least it wasn't you were opening up and it's a bunch of nuts and bolts and screws or whatever.
But she loved it. She thought it was hilarious, and I was mad because I was I can't believe this happened.
No, I think it's awesome.
It worked out because I think that she actually appreciated how random and not Animal Crossing
it's a funny story now.
It is a very funny story because I was what is happening? This is not Animal Crossing. Anyway, advent calendar is very cool. Loved the one in this movie. I would love to try to make one. That would be really fun. The advent calendar is seen in Omi's animated flashback when she's talking about her Krampus story. The real one was scanned and recreated for this segment. The film's Krampus is intentionally designed in its shadowed and cowled face to resemble death. and is wearing a mask. Not the performer, but the Krampus himself is wearing a mask, if you've noticed. It doesn't look like his real face, because if you don't really get to see him super duper up close, which is really disappointing, because I really feel like Krampus is, like, I don't know, the detail that they put in Krampus is so cool, and I don't feel like you really get a good look at him. He's
not in the film very much, if we're being honest. Like, he shows up in spirit throughout the full film, but you don't really see him until towards the end of the film.
Yeah, so I don't like that you don't get enough screen time with the Krampus, but like I said, he's wearing like a face on top of his face, because if you see in like my little painting in front of you, he is like a demon, and it's like a demon and a goat kind of situation, like had a baby. It's not quite what Krampus that's going to be more like what Krampus would look like, a traditional kind of, but Krampus looks different amongst different
interpretations.
So many different interpretations, but I love this interpretation a lot because it's really dark, that he's wearing a face on top of his face. But Michael Dougherty will not say whose face he's wearing, but to me, and also to other people, Krampus's true face is hidden underneath a Santa Claus-like mask. It looks like a Santa mask. It looks like Santa's face.
I didn't quite get that.
I got it. I thought it was it kind of looked like, I mean, he had a white, grayish beard, and it looked like an old man. And typically, when I think of Santa, I think of old man, beard. I don't know. To me, it really hit the mark for that.
Fair enough.
And that's okay if it didn't hit the mark there for you. It's not confirmed that it is Santa, so it could just be an old man. It's never fully revealed to the audience, as a choice by the filmmakers to allow viewers to make their own conclusions on his actual appearance. His eyes and mouth are the only visible traces that can be seen through parts of the mask. Like, you see his long tongue at one point, and you see his creepy, bulging red eyes.
His long fingers.
Long fingers. Yeah, I love it. He's very creepy. What did you think of Krampus himself?
I think he needs a spine alignment. I think he needs to go see a chiropractor, because he's very hunched over, I feel like.
He's like, really cool thing. There was a person in that costume as well. He was an actual costume, and somebody was working the puppet.
Nice. That's always fun.
So his head was not like an actual mask. Like, people were like, how do you see out of that? Well, he was in like the cloak himself, and he had like a puppeteering thing to like move the head.
That's fun.
And there was a little digital screen in there too, where he could like see what he was doing.
That's awesome. I have so much respect for that kind of craft. I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
But you know, people train years to be able to do that kind of thing. And now there's a lot of stuff like that out. I mean, we just watched FNAF, and there's, you know, Sesame Street has been going strong for decades. And I think there is like, that is a niche of the industry that you could participate in, and that a lot of people are interested in. So I think it's cool that it's here.
And I love that too, though, because it adds so much character to these characters, which I love, because I love a good creature feature, you know?
Super cool.
Especially when you get to see new creatures that typically you don't see before. Like, it's just so cool. And to know that a person, he's wearing like actual, like, these hooves as well. Wow. So like, he's actually like wearing hooves, and he's like wearing like the costume itself, and then maneuvering. Like, that is just so cool. And he's wearing gloves with the nails and like extended
really
fingers.
Cool. I've never seen like Pan's Labyrinth, the Guillermo del Toro film, but I know that that's a big thing for him. It's like the whole, like, you know, showing off creatures is somebody who's very similarly on like hind legs, and he has hooves, and he has to like have this whole apparatus, you know, to control all that. Doug Jones is
known very well in that community for. They find like these like really like skinny, lanky kind of people to kind of play these weird creatures, because they have a very versatile kind of body type where they could literally, quite literally be whatever.
Okay.
So it's really cool, because Doug Jones played that character in the Pan's Labyrinth, and he's also played some other creatures in Guillermo del Toro's movies, which I love, and we'll eventually get to some of them, because some of them are kind of considered in the horror aspect, I would say.
Okay.
The gingerbread cookies, I love them so much. They're so cute. The gingerbread cookie that is lowered down the chimney is attached to a hook, a meat hook, or I don't know how to say it, so I'm going to read it as the English language is going to provide to me, so forgive me. Or Ketrokur in Icelandic. It's probably not at all how it's pronounced. Is one of Iceland's 13 Yule lads who carries a meat hook, which he lowers down chimneys in order to steal meats smoking on the fire for Christmas. He visits on December 23rd, the same night Howie is taken when he falls for the gingerbread trap.
So fun.
So fun.
Yeah, I like how they incorporate everything.
I know.
Attention to detail.
It's very, very culture loaded,
appropriate,
and I love it. It's so fun. Christmas Carol was playing on the TV at some point during the movie when when the characters arrive and stuff, which is fun because I love when movies reference movies. I think that's a really fun meta kind of thing because you're like, it's a movie within a movie within a movie within a movie, and it's just like, it's just fun.
Yeah, I agree.
But Michael Dougherty, when talking about this movie and the idea behind it, he said that it was kind of similar in the aspects of A Christmas Carol or It's a Wonderful Life as these tales that scare you straight, where these people have like this big wish that like, oh, I wish I was never born, or blah, 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 blah. Things would be better without me. And it kind of has but this one has a much darker approach, essentially.
Definitely.
Which I love because I'm like,
It's hard to argue. Like, what do you think? Do you think this is a family-friendly film?
One could say it's family-friendly.
It definitely writes a line. I think if you have a bunch of teenagers...
Scare them straight.
But if you have, I don't know, if an 8-year-old, it probably would be a comfortable watching.
It would be scary. I mean, I'll be honest. Even as an adult, like we'll talk about it when we talk about the creatures themselves. Some of them scare me. Like that's
they're spooky.
They're very spooky. So I'm like, eee. But yeah, so I love that darker approach. They also talk about this being more of like a fantasy dark fairy tale film rather than a true horror film.
Okay.
But Dougherty also doesn't want it to not be classified as a holiday horror, like a Christmas film either, because that's also part of what it is as well. The character playing Howard, David Koechner, however you say it. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know how to pronounce the things. He said the movie is comprised of 3 H's: horror, heart, and humor, which I agree. It does have a good balance between the 3. Like, it's scary, it's fun, and it also has like deeper messages that are really like, oh.
I do think that's a hard balance to make.
It is a hard balance.
I think for me, that's why I struggled a little bit with Trick or Treat, where I just like the balance wasn't quite adjusted for my personal taste. While I did enjoy the movie, but I do think this one's a little more like hits it for me, like that balance of heart, humor, and horror.
Well, that's good to know. So would you say between the 2 movies, between Trick or Treat and Krampus, you probably prefer this one?
No, I still like Trick or Treat better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to get into it then.
Yeah, just because of a few details in this film.
Gotcha. Okay. We're going to talk about the legend of Krampus. So he is rooted from Austrian and German folklore. Krampus is Central European popular legend, half goat, half demon monster that punishes misbehaving children at Christmas time. He is the devilish companion of St. Nicholas. People often consider him to be like the shadow of Santa.
That's what they said in the movie.
They do say that in the movie. Krampus is believed to have originated in Germany, which his name derives from the German word Krampen, which means claw. Krampus was thought to have been part of pagan rituals for the winter solstice. According to legend, he is the son of Hel, the Norse god of the underworld. That's dope as hell. With the spread of Christianity, Krampus became associated with Christmas despite efforts by the Catholic Church to ban him. The creature and St. Nicholas are said to arrive on the evening of December 5th, Krampusnacht, which means Krampus night. While St. Nicholas rewards nice children by leaving presents, Krampus beats those who are naughty with branches and sticks. In some cases, he is said to eat them or take them to hell. Imagine that being like
taken to hell?
Like, no, imagine that being told as like a kid or something. Like, if you're good, Santa's gonna give you things. If you're bad, Krampus is gonna steal your things and possibly you. Like,
I mean, that's basically the Christian religion in a nutshell.
Yeah. Literally light and dark, heaven, hell.
And I don't know, I'm sure that it works. I'm sure like you tell your naughty little brat kid to like, if you misbehave, they'll start to, lighten up.
That's true. On December 6th, St. Nicholas Day, children awaken to find their gifts or nurse their injuries. Ooh, that sounds terrifying. Festivities involving Krampus include the Krampuslauf or Krampus Run. In this activity, which often involves alcohol, dope, people dressed as the creature parade through streets, scaring spectators and sometimes chasing them. I love that. That sounds fun. We need to have that here.
It sounds like a crowd of drunk people, though, like parading in costumes.
Fun. Beginning in the late 20th century, amid efforts to preserve cultural heritage, Krampus runs became increasingly popular in Austria and Germany. During this time, Krampus began to be celebrated internationally, and the monster's growing appeal was evidenced by numerous horror films. Some claimed that the expanding popularity of Krampus was a reaction to the commercialization of Christmas, and I would agree. I think
I can see that.
It's really cool.
There's nothing like that here, though, unfortunately.
Nothing. Because we're in the freaking Bible Belt and people aren't fun.
Well, I just mean in America. We kind of lean into the capitalism.
Yeah, we do be doing that, though. We're like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Small Business Saturday. Give me
Prime
all
Day.
of the deals.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Prime Day. Don't even get me started on Prime Day. Love those deals. I'm a sucker for a good sale. They have it embedded in our brains. And you know what? I'm a sheep. When it finally hits you that you're an adult at Christmas time, that's when the magic dies.
Damn, that is very jaded of you to say.
I know it is, but it's true. And that's kind of what this movie comments on, is that, you know, Max tries to keep that magic alive for himself. And, of course, his mean bullies of cousins are like, Maxie Pad believes in Santa. Yeah. And then
the universe kind of chokes out the joy out of it, you know?
Yeah, they're like, oh, you believe in Santa?
Mm-hmm. Which frustrates me because if I'm being honest, like you know, you've seen some of the videos I've sent you before, but I love cringy things. Yeah. I love it when people enjoy their cringy thing and people make fun of people for that.
I think that's stupid. I'm like, if people are happy,
let them embrace it.
Literally.
Just because you're miserable doesn't mean they have to be miserable too.
If they're not hurting anybody, well, that's all that matters.
I agree.
They might be hurting your peace, but it's like, okay, but in that moment, your peace over their happiness doesn't really matter. So Michael Dougherty did not allow any of the cast members to see the creatures prior to filming, especially when it was at the Weta workshop when they were still making them. They kept it as secret as possible so that he could really get those honest reactions on camera during the shoot. First of all, generally, what did you think about all of the creatures in the movie? And did you have a favorite?
They all creep me out. Yeah. I mean, we got quite a few here. We have like this little angel owl looking creature. We have the evil like Teddy Ruxpin. Yeah. And I think for me, if I got to be honest with you, it's definitely the Jack in the Box.
Me too.
That thing is creepy. It's terrifying.
Oh, man.
They did a great job on that one.
They did a great job. So one thing that I wish I would have seen a little bit more of in this movie, if you noticed, it starts off as one creepy snowman, and then it becomes lots of creepy snowmen. Yeah. I kind of wanted to see them do something. That would have been really creepy to me.
I could see that being difficult technically, just to get it like logistically.
But the idea that they just keep popping, that's terrifying to me.
Yeah, it's a little spooky.
Like, it also like the crafting of snowmen.
Makes sense too, because you're scared of like statues.
Yeah, I'm scared of statues, and like I didn't know this was a thing, but you guys have educated me further on it. The uncanny valley effect, where things are personified, and that just seems creepy. I do.
So I can kind of see, like, I mean, snowmen are snow statues, basically.
Yeah, they're creepy. I used to like doing that as a kid, but as an adult, I'm kind of like, that's weird. What if there's actually a person under there? Because now my brain is always going to be thinking of the dark and twisty things.
Maybe. Yeah, you do that to yourself, though.
I do freak myself out more than anybody. Of course, the next one that we see on screen is Krampus, operated by one person. Again, I told you that he had a digital screen inside, and he was maneuvering the head in with a knob kind of thing.
Very skilled,
really cool. And he also was wearing the hooves. So cool. One person.
Very intense.
Very intense, and a lot of clothing to wear too.
Mm-hmm.
The design was also very cool. I really enjoyed what they did, where it was kind of like a patchwork sort of cape cloak sort of thing. Again, the mask on top of his face. I really wish we could have seen what their interpretation of what Krampus looks like.
Maybe when we get the sequel.
Maybe we will when we see like what Krampus 2 is going to be like. Please let that happen, Michael Dougherty. I will cry. I'm excited to see what that would be, but I would love to see underneath the creepy face, just to see what he would actually look like, because I know that some people, have their own interpretation. The next one, our favorite, Jack in the Box. He was creepy as shit. So creepy.
Yeah, it's just everything about it. Just that it came from this box, and that like it looks kind of like a human centipede kind of situation.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah, and also just even when it came up to like the actual character, the face, the mouth, the little arms, the way it slithers like a snake, it's just
terrifying. But I also love the design of it, the concept of it. It's terrifying in so many different ways.
Yeah, I'd venture to say it's the thing that stands out most in the movie, even on top of Krampus.
Me too. It's one of the most notable creatures in my book. So there were 3 people operating this,
Right.
Like the puppetry. So one person was like doing the hands and the head kind of thing. One person was in the middle, who was known as the throbber, because they would like stretch their body out and make it look like they could see like people moving in the Jack in the Box because he swallowed people.
Oh gosh, that whole scene where you see somebody's like feet and legs be like swallowed.
Disgusting. It's so scary because that stuff freaks me out. The idea of possibly being eaten. Like there's a haunted house. I think it was a Halloween Horror Nights situation. Maybe at Universal, they did a La Llorona.
Cool.
It was a really cool like cultural story, but they. Oh, it's terrifying. I hate it because they also do something like this in one of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and I won't tell you which one so that you are surprised when we get to that franchise.
Okay.
But I don't like the idea of something big trying to eat me.
I think you're safe. I don't think it's likely to happen.
Right, but in one of the scenes in the La Llorona haunted attraction, it was La Llorona. I have to kind of like paint you a picture.
Okay. You're a physical actor.
Say you are lying in the bed and you're like, don't get me, La Llorona. And then I'm La Llorona, like this.
Okay, spooky.
And she's leaning over the bed, but she's huge. Like, size of the bed, huge. And then she has your feet in her mouth, and she's just like...
Oh, that is scary,
like, literally, like, trying to eat you.
Yeah.
I want to die, like, thinking about it. It's so terrifying in theory, and, like, things like that, like, being eaten alive.
I mean, it's scary, isn't it?
Kill me.
I remember one of the biggest fears I had in a movie was this movie that I only saw glimpses of on television for a bit, and I think it's just called Anaconda. And that happens in that movie. It's a big, big snake that can eat people whole.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't like that.
Some people find it comforting.
I don't want to be eaten alive.
Some people want that.
Unless I can make a home in there, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Please no. But there was also a third person who was in the tail. So they were like, imagine like where the little box is.
Yeah.
Because like he was a chunky like Jack in the Box because he'd be eaten. The little box. Like they literally had their body like this, and they were like, doing the tail like that. So imagine that core workout that they had, because they said that they would still be doing that when they were not rolling, just to get used to doing it and stuff.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I don't know why I think you'd be very good at either being the throbber or the tail. I just feel like you have so much energy sometimes. I feel like you could really do it.
I need to put this energy
and give
somewhere,
a performance.
essentially. Yeah. It would be so fun to be like, yeah, you know what I did today? I was a throbber. Like that just sounds weird, but it just sounds so fun. And when you're like, yeah, I got to pretend to be like inside the Jack in the Box.
I feel like you'd have fun with it. Yeah.
As theatrical as I am, I would absolutely adore to do it.
Yeah. Okay,
my second favorite creatures, the gingerbread men.
Yeah, as soon as they popped up, I was like, oh, Jeralyn is going to love these things. Because they're like small, mischievous, and kind of cute, kind of little things. And you eat that stuff up.
I love it. Like the teeny tiny, like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, Evil Marshmallow Man. I just love
Also reminded me of Evil Dad, and just like when there was a bunch of little ashes running around.
I love it. I don't know why. It's just something is so cute about something that is not meant to be evil being evil. And it's like they're this little chunky little gingerbread men, and they're just like...
It did give a little bit of a vibe of similar to Trick or Treat with Sam Hain, and just like that kind of mischievous vibe.
I loved it. A weird fact about this, one of the gingerbread men it's a random cameo from none other than Seth Green. Do you know who Seth Green is?
Yeah, okay. Of Robot Chicken fame.
Family Guy, that kind of thing. I was like, what a random voice cameo. I didn't know it until I read about it, and I was like, that is the strangest thing I've ever heard about this movie.
You might have just wanted to be a part of it. You heard about it,
I respect it, though.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I respect it 1,000%, but it is kind of a random fact.
I've always thought if I ever got like famous from like doing music or whatever, I'd be in every movie. Like, you don't even have to pay me. Like, I already got the money. I just want to be in the movie.
Yeah, you just want to vibe.
Yeah.
I get it. I don't really know what to call this next creature, so I put it as Unseen Snow Demon. We see it with Howard and Tom when they are going to find Beth.
It's like a gopher.
It's like kind of like...
It's like what?
Like that.
You're so close to like a Donald Duck impression.
I know that's not close to Donald Duck. I can't even
do the wah 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 wah. Actually, I can't. You're so close.
Despicable. I can't do it. It's really bad. So I just...
That's Daffy Duck. Daffy says despicable.
Donald Duck's this... Who the fuck is
Donald is the white one from Disney.
Yeah, like Mickey.
Yeah. Daffy is the black one from Looney Tunes.
Oh, shit.
He's the one that says despicable.
You know what? He's probably part of the Duck family. Chill out.
Maybe.
It's despicable that you would put me on the spot like that. Okay? That's what the real disrespect is. Sounds like a wolf underneath the snow, but it's not. I don't know what it is because you don't see it.
I think it's more of a gopher.
I don't know, but I would love to know what it is because I think the idea of it being mysterious makes it even more creepy.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's cool.
Because I'm like, fuck.
And that's the thing that takes out most everybody.
Yeah, I think I would. That's the way that I would prefer to go, if any of the ways.
And they knew. I mean, like Max's mom was like, "Goodbye, son," and then that's it.
Like, I love you. Bye.
I do like that the dad, Adam Scott's character, he did the whole like, "Save yourself, I'll hold them back."
Yeah.
And kind of sacrifice himself.
I mean, it didn't work for long at all.
No, it didn't. But I really do enjoy that. I think it was represented a lot better in like John Krasinski's Quiet Place.
Oh my gosh, yes.
There was an interaction in that film that
did
movie.
That well. Woo, that was a good movie. It was very sad. Another creature that I love, the cherub is what it is called, but it looks more like an angel tree topper.
The cherub was very creepy. I
say it
especially
correctly.
with the face.
Say it right.
It had like a glassy kind of mask that really freaked me out, and it's just like flew right at you like a bird.
Yeah.
Like a Hitchcock film.
Yeah.
They can be scary.
I really like the way that they puppeteered her. So they had 6 people operating her at this one time during this one scene where when they're in the attic and they find her, she has her like little wings covering herself, and then she's like,
like wakes up.
I thought that was so precious.
Okay, I didn't get that.
No, it was precious, and then she's like, and I was like, oh, this is so funny.
It's you in the morning, grumpy.
Yeah, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee. That kind of thing.
Yeah, that exudes Jeralyn.
Yeah.
You really need like a mug or a shirt or something.
I'm a sweet baby angel, and it's just me as the cherub. So yeah, that's the cherub, and I really like all of the creatures that we get in this movie. They're just one of a kind. You don't see them like that anywhere, and especially the crossover between the cherub and the Jack-in-the-Box, like the lifelikeness and like the teeth and like the gums and stuff. You actually like you see that. Oh, that is just so creepy.
It brings it to life a little bit, I think.
It's really that uncanny valley effect where I really feel it where I'm like, ew, like it just creeps me out. Like I'm like, ew, Also, we get the teddy bear. This one was more cute, if I'm being honest. But also, like, it's like baby Freddy Fazbear.
Got like Chucky vibes.
Yeah, like a teeny tiny baby, like Freddy. Like what I imagined Freddy would look like in like a more unhinged state.
Mm.
Yeah.
It made me mostly think of like an evil Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah, I get that.
Like running around. It's weird that like whenever like he got stabbed, this is probably maybe a rating to get a PG-13. Whenever it got hurt, it had like green guts, green blood.
Yeah, kind of similar to what Evil Dead did back in the day. Probably. I do like that though because it also makes it seem very not real in like the sense that it could be like a nightmare.
Yeah, adds a little more whimsy.
Yeah, a little bit more whimsical to the story, which I mean, all of these creatures are very whimsical, not something that you would typically see in like a creature feature. I feel like the most common ones that we see are probably like clowns, like killer clowns.
Sure.
Or like zombies, vampires, werewolves, that kind of thing. But these are one of a kind.
They're Christmassy.
They're very Christmassy. And especially that damn Jack-in-the-Box. It haunts me. It's so scary.
Very spooky. Bad imagery.
But I also like love it at the same time because it's so scary. Then we also get the robot. This one was a little bit underwhelming comparatively to all of the other creatures that we get. But I thought it was kind of funny though that like the robot toy did.
Like I said, I got Chucky vibes from the bear, and then from the robot, I got Terminator vibes.
I could get that. I could get behind that. But I just don't really. This toy was less memorable.
Yeah, but I think it is just also Christmas themed. I think there was some point where like the toy to get was like a robot kind of thing.
Yeah, it makes me think of Jingle All the Way. Do you remember that movie at all?
No.
Anyway, moving on. Another thing that we mentioned, the creepiness of elves. These elves, so effing creepy.
Did not like the elves. Like just like they are really creepy, and I think their design is impeccable.
Yeah.
However, I gotta say, like they don't really do anything.
Well,
they're just there to like jump around.
That that kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's just my problem with it is they were introduced as like, oh no, the elves, and then they don't do anything. So I'm like, why was she so frightened?
I get that. I kind of wish there were more, that we got to see more of them. Maybe some of them had more like speaking roles.
I thought they were gonna stab one of them.
Yeah. So some of the lead up was a little bit underwhelming. I would agree with you there. The elves were very cool. I really wish we would have gotten to see more like close ups of the designs, because their masks were super cool.
Nice.
A lot of them were like handcrafted by the same like workshop. Some of these people were in like full length outfits and stuff. So the scene when they all jump in the window, it was rehearsed a few times, but they only really had one shot to get it right.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Next thing I want to talk about, it's really, really cool. Also done by the same Weta workshop, the animation from Omi's story.
Oh, I loved it. That's such a treat. I've always loved like little segments like that and things. Yeah. So I enjoyed that little segment quite a bit.
I also did too. I forgot that it looked more claymation than it did like digital animation. In my brain, I guess I remembered it being just digital animation, but I think it was more claymation, and it was beautifully done. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't really see much about it. I wanted to get more of the animation story behind it. But it was really well done, really cool. It is on Michael Dougherty's YouTube page as well.
I loved it. I think it's so whimsical. Some people really don't like that stuff. They're like, oh, I didn't pay to come watch an animated thing. Because people don't like animated. Like, I know there's several adults that won't watch an animated movie. Because they're like, oh, that's for kids.
That's not for kids. I'm sorry. That is just such a simple-minded kind of viewpoint. It's similar to the director of Parasite. I haven't watched that movie yet. I do know that it is part of the horror world, and I know that a lot of people love it. It is a beloved film in the horror community. But I know that that director spoke in his native language on like one of the award shows, and he essentially said something along the lines of, if you can't get past subtitles, that's on you at some point, or something. Or like you're like limiting yourself to so many good movies because of that. And I'm like, that's so true, because I don't mind subtitles, and I love claymation, and I just like to soak up any like. I
mean, medium. It's all art, you know what I mean? There's a lot of investment in all this, and there's some things that are, you know, specific to that medium. You know, I think making something in animation or making something in a different thing that isn't live action gives you opportunities that you wouldn't be able to express yourself, and just, you know, maybe you don't have the budget to do something live action, but in animated things you can do whatever you want. Same thing with comic books. I mean, that's why comic books are so big. You know, you can write 10 issues where your superheroes do crazy stuff. But if you want to make it live action, that's going to cost you a penny.
But yeah, I thought that was really cool when we get Omi's story and she experiences this thing. And I like that she's so adamant to stay by the fire, keep the fire hot. And I don't like the way that she's treated in this movie at all by anybody, not even her own family.
Max treats her well.
But the rest of the family does not listen to her, does not respect her. They think she's like... I don't know if it was intentional at all, but she speaks most of her her foreign language, like her native language, through the movie. But it feels kind of like they just treat her like she's old and senile and stupid because of that.
Well, I don't know if it's because of that, but I just know that a lot of people treat the elder people in their families just like that generally. But
at the same time, I just feel like they're all like, she's just crazy.
I mean, the story she's telling is very, you know, out there.
It is, but I mean, I would believe that if like creepy things were happening and they're just like, oh yeah, no, that's not accurate. She's just lying. Like, what has happened thus far? Let's do some math here, guys. Like, right. Silly. Okay, here's the part that I think that you wanted to discuss, and I am nervous and excited to talk about it because it's got a couple of different things that we could interpret. So the ending, or is it? I am not a fan of it personally, and I think you're also not a fan of it personally, but I have my interpretation that I chose essentially from this, the one that I think would make the most sense.
Okay.
But there's also one that could be viewed in a lighter way.
Okay.
But I don't know. So basically, you tell me what you think of the ending and why do you feel that way and what you would like to believe is the true ending.
I watched this movie today.
Okay.
Same day we're recording the podcast.
Okay.
I thought the film was really good.
Okay.
This movie has had a lot of praise towards it, and I've known about the praise while I was watching the film, and I thought, you know what? This movie's entertaining, and it's almost a family movie. I think it crosses the line a little too far to be a family movie, but it's just about there. It's a PG-13 movie, and things go off the rails towards the end.
They sure
and
do.
It turns out it was always just a dream, right? And the problem I had with that while I was experiencing it, right, is as Max wakes up, it's a dream. I'm like, oh, well, I hate that trope. I'm like, I don't like it when it's like, why did I just watch the movie then? What was the purpose of that if none of it even happened? So already that was my main gripe. As soon as it happened, I was like, I don't like endings where it was just a dream. And secondly, when he goes downstairs, everybody's just having a good time. There's a moment of happiness. So I thought, this is undeserved. Like, this movie did nothing to turn a page on like a message. It has an overall theme of like, same thing with Trick or Treat, of like, here are the rules of Halloween. But what I was thinking, and what I would have enjoyed more, at the beginning of the film, Max makes a list. He says, I wish my parents would fall in love with each other again. I wish me and sis could hang out like we used to. I wish that uncle and aunt wouldn't have to have such a hard time struggling financially. I wish my cousins were treated for who they are, instead of my uncle trying to make them into the boys that he didn't get. And I thought, okay, well, the movie's setting me up to like get those things at the end of the movie. The mom and dad are in love. Him and sis have a better relationship. Something happens with them financially to where they're in a better place, and we're all happy. It's a happy ending. It's all good. End of the story. But I don't even know why we went to specify all those things, because none of them have any ramifications for the rest of the film, right? And the whole movie, I kept on being shocked. Like when Adam Scott's character died, I was like, oh man, like I liked him. I thought he was a lovable character. And I think this movie does do a good job of giving characters arcs and giving them a lovable characterization for me to enjoy their presence. For a lot of the characters, the mom, I respect her for like putting up with so much and just like really trying to keep things pushing. I respect the dad for like taking a leadership position, or even the uncle who was originally really obnoxious, apologizing. The aunt for being so like adamant about the safety of her kids. Like there's so much of these characters to love, I feel like. And when they started getting picked off, I was a little disappointed. Like I don't get me wrong, I know it's supposed to be like a horror film, but I was really hoping that this could be a family like PG-13 thing, that like we have lessons. We were scared while we learned those lessons, but we end up okay on the other side, right? So when I saw people get picked off, I wasn't a fan of that. And then when we saw there being like a whole section where like it's a dream, I was like, oh, that's so lame. I guess everything's just okay now, And I came to terms with that by the end of the movie, where it's like, okay, whatever, at least it ends in a feel-good moment. Like, it's undeserved, but it does give me good vibes. It's Christmas. It's a Christmas movie. Everything's okay. And then everything starts to pan out, and they're in a snow globe. And I thought, well, that's lame. Like, now it's like, oh, it's split, because it's like, it really gives you a sense of like, I don't know what's really going on. I'm thinking like, you get it's really intriguing, I will say. I think it's really interesting how they're in a snow globe, and then it pans out to a big room full of snow globes, like implying that this has happened to several families over the years, and like Krampus has now taken hostage of several households, right? And so now that the one respite of like, oh, at least it was a happy ending is gone, and it feels like they were flip-flopped on it. So as a viewer, it feels very unsatisfying of like, I don't even know. They're just pulling my leg here over and over again. And it makes you think like, oh, well, it's a bad ending. Like they're stuck in their house now. They can't go anywhere. The only thing in the snow globe is their house. They can't go to Walmart. How are they going to be happy? They're not. They basically pass on to the afterlife. And so like, I just found it very unsatisfying and kind of disrespectful to the viewer.
Oh. That's a really passionate response. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. So what I have found is a lot of people have their own interpretations of it. This is from none other than John Squires from Bloody Disgusting. We know him. We love him. He's great. He said in a way there are two twist endings, and we don't get a confirmed ending at all by Michael Dougherty. I think he specifically has stayed away from that because he wants the viewers to make up their own ending, whatever floats their boat, essentially. So there are two twist endings. The first brings along with the realization that Max had, in so many words, imagined the events of the film. Right? After Krampus kills his whole family, tosses him into the fiery depths of hell, Max wakes up in his own bed on Christmas morning. Downstairs, everyone's opening presents, being happy. and they're alive. A normal Christmas, exactly what Max wanted. The film seems like it's going to end on a very happy note. But then Doherty hits us with another twist. The camera pulls back. They're in a snow globe, which Krampus sets down in his underworld lair. They've seemingly become part of his collection, suggesting that the film's events weren't a dream at all. The assumption one might derive is that the twist is that Max and his family are literally trapped in hell for the rest of eternity, living out this Christmas morning on an endless loop.
Yes.
On one hand, I like that idea because it's like you got what you wanted, essentially, at first. Like, he was, because he had his wish, right? And he was like, I hate everyone, I hate Christmas, ripped up his letter, all the things, and then he's like, okay, you ain't got that Christmas magic? Let's get you. And then they do the whole thing, and then they're like, there. And it's like, these people don't even like to be around each other. So it's like, that's kind of a justified hell, I would
disagree
say.
so much. Like, I could not, like, none of these people deserve to go to hell just because they get snippy over Christmas.
No.
Just because you make he didn't wish for them to go to hell.
Well,
and also the way that the wish was granted is completely twisted from what the kid actually wanted.
I agree. However, I think that with him being Krampus, he's essentially a demon. And if you've seen any movies in general about demons and they are literally dark and twisty. They're gonna
Well,
I mean, that's kind of their thing.
Well, that's why I think it's disrespectful for me to give me these characters that I love, and I don't want to see Max get hurt. Right. And now that's what they're doing to me. I understand what you're saying, and I could see it if it was given to me like in a, I guess maybe like a Shakespearean tragic way, or with characters that I don't like, and the movie set off to make that. And I'm saying this completely out of just personal taste.
That's totally fine.
I understand that, like, oh yeah, it's twisted, and so maybe people like that it's twisted like that. But to me, it's like, oh man, Max is in hell forever now.
Okay, well, let's talk about the possible number 2 ending. So Max wished that his family would go away. Krampus showed Max what he thought he wanted wasn't what he wanted at all. Max realized that, so Krampus gave him his family back. But how is it a happy ending if they're all trapped in a snow globe? It's a way of showing that those snow globes are Krampus's portals to the real world. He has one for every family. So when they're not respecting the spirit of the season he strikes, he's keeping tabs on every single family in the world like evil Santa. The Krampus spell could mean that Krampus is watching, and even though none of those things actually happen, it was more than just a nightmare, like essentially a vision of what could happen. I like that interpretation a lot better in my opinion. Because I think that's kind of really cool, like that Santa's always watching and Krampus is always watching. Now, they both have their own roles.
I think that's a very, creative headcanon that somebody made up and that does not reflect in the movie whatsoever. I definitely think it's all. No, I think we kind of do know.
I don't think
to me that's just like that's so you're reaching for
I
like thing.
I do not agree with that.
I think you could go in the movie and take that and make it your faith if you want. But for me, it's like the movie explicitly almost tells the other thing. I think maybe they could have. I would be convinced maybe if like instead of like when it pans out of the house, it also pans out to like a street, a planet or something. But in that, it's like all the snow globes too are on houses specifically.
Yeah.
So I definitely think the intended implication is that it was they're trapped here.
But that's the thing though, is that we don't know. And until we get a Krampus 2, we really won't know.
I definitely think it leans harder on one over the other though.
I think that both could very well be plausible, like,
because do you think you could have thought of the second one? Well, like, when you watched the film, you've seen it several times, right? Like, when did you come across this alternative, like, potential ending of it?
I actually had a deep conversation with my mother about it before I actually found something written about it, because I thought that Michael Dougherty himself had said this, and I thought my mom had even said that Michael Dougherty had said that. That's not true. He has not explicitly stated any which way or the other. He actually leaves it up to the viewer, which I know
it's a fun little game.
It's a fun little game. Some people don't like it. They like to be told what to think. What they like to be told.
I'm okay with being open to interpretation. I just feel like this is really like nothing in the movie has shown me him like I don't know, traveling between dimensions or anything.
But I mean,
like that's something somebody just implemented.
He is part of the underworld. I mean, he is essentially like the Christmas demon. So I mean, I think that either ending would be fine with me. I think I have a preference to the second one more, that it's more like a I'm watching you and I'm always keeping tabs on you, so act up, and I got you like that again.
Yeah. I just think these guys can't go to Walmart anymore.
I mean, who cares about fucking Walmart?
Well, I need to get my groceries. I don't think they can go to school anymore. I don't think they can see their other family or friends anymore.
I'm okay. It's just but I mean, it's just a movie. You don't know that's the real ending, though. I think you're just set on that.
It's just the second one did not occur to me whatsoever. And
that's okay. It doesn't have to. I mean, it didn't like outlandishly occur to me that way either.
But the first one did.
Well, the first one absolutely did. It felt like, oh, they're trapped, but that's not necessarily the case. We don't know.
I just feel like anybody. I don't know. Like I'm not mad at anybody for taking the second interpretation.
Well, it would sound that way, sir.
I'm just saying like that. No way was my.
I get that. I completely do. It's not an explicit like. It's a thinker, honestly. But I also kind of understand that because when he received his little Krampus bell, he's like, "Oh shit, that stuff actually."
And then you start hearing the audio cues from the events, and they all kind of chime while all the other characters, you see their faces, and they looks like they're reacting to it too, like they're remembering everything that happened.
But I mean, again, it also could simply be a warning, like because Omi got a warning, and she did not die the first time that Krampus came around.
I'd prefer it to be that way.
Second note about Omi. Why would she sacrifice herself? They had an open-ass window, and they're like, open the door! Go through the window!
Well, she didn't want to go through the window.
No.
Oh, why didn't they go in there?
Why, if they were so concerned about Omi, why wouldn't they go through the window?
Plot, I guess.
Hate it. I'm like, you have an open window, and it's humongous. That window is humongous.
Yeah.
If you're really concerned about Omi... The window's already open because of the stupid little elves.
Yeah. Well, they weren't thinking, And Max had a good point. She's trying to do her thing.
Yeah, she wanted to face him, and I get it. But like at the same time, I don't know. I do think that because of her experience with it, that of course I think Krampus, he's not all bad. I think he teaches the lesson. So I think that mostly he wants you to appreciate what you have, because I mean. Santa's like, hey, you're bad. You get fucking cold, dude. I'm not gonna give you gifts. Yeah. So I mean, I think there's also a level of good and bad to both Santa and Krampus.
I got all bad from Krampus. I don't like even like there's a scene where like he's wiping away Max's tears.
Yeah.
And Max is like thinking, oh, maybe we have a deal here, and then no, they just start laughing, and then they drop him into hell. Like I thought that angle for me, I'm only talking about the way I took it. That angle for me would have been entertaining. Like see like oh, there's like a message at the end of the movie. I just didn't feel a good message, positive family Christmas message.
You didn't think there was a positive message?
No, not at all.
Appreciate your family. Appreciate what you got. Don't lose the Christmas magic.
Or you'll get sent to hell.
I mean, but literally, like you said, religion is rooted in that.
Yeah.
Good, bad. Like, there's not really black and white issues there.
And you yourself are very religious, right?
I am not religious.
You have problems with it, right?
I have.
So that's what I'm saying.
I
like
have
in the similarity,
with religion in general, but I mean, Krampus and Christmas time is a different story.
I think it's very similar.
It is very similar. I mean, it makes you not want to have any negative thoughts about Christmas because you're like, oh shit, I don't want Krampus to come get me. But do any of these characters deserve what they got? No, not at all. Especially like the children and stuff, and like the dog. I was angry about that. Rosie did not deserve to die. She was a good pup. Good pup.
I like Rosie.
I know.
And Chrissy's down there. She's like, what, 3 months old?
No, not 3 months. You have no concept of babies and like their ages. She was probably at least 11 months, maybe closer to like over like, I don't know, 11 months to 18 months.
Well, I would like to think the alternative, and they're just fine. They just wake up in the real world. I think another problem I had with maybe that made me think that way for me is like the whole, after he wakes up, the whole scenery. I don't know if you noticed the colors of the film.
They were much lighter.
And it was really hazy. If the light coming through the window was so bright.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't see outside. And same thing when it gets towards the end of the scene and it zooms out. It's just everything seemed so like we're in an atmospheric, fantastical setting.
Yeah.
That it made me think, oh, this isn't the regular real world.
Yeah. I mean, they could very well be stuck in their own hell. I do think that, how they were speaking about one another and how they view each other so negatively, that is a hell of their own creating their own being, because I mean the things you put up with for the holidays and stuff like that, I mean, they didn't really want to be there, it felt like, and they literally said it a couple times, we should have gone to my brother's, like all of these things. So I mean, it's literally forcing them to
spend time with each other.
I mean, so I mean, in some way that punishment is kind of a reward. It's in some capacity if you want to have a positive spin on it.
Yeah. Maybe they get along. I'd venture to say they'd probably just keep.
Because I mean, that was the most positive interactions we got through the whole movie. It felt literally like. I
just wish
fake.
the movie would have given me like that transition, as opposed to like, oh yeah, you know, even without all the nightmarish thing that happened, like they were really upset with each other the last couple of days, and then suddenly everything's okay. Like it wasn't really fulfilling. There's no arc there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
transitioning
I
from like,
understand.
oh, like, you know, we have our troubles, but you know, at the end of the day, we're family.
But maybe Max did get his wish. Maybe he like got his wish that he wanted originally, and maybe because he was like, okay, now I understand what you were trying to do. You were trying to show me, like, I take everything back that I said. I want my family back. Maybe he was like, okay, I'm gonna give you a pass. Here's your family back, and here are the wishes granted that you wanted from Santa.
Maybe, you know, maybe Michael Dougherty will tell us in a sequel, like if maybe it's a continuation of the story, or if it shows us Krampus showing up to another family's household, you know, we'll...
Maybe the first family, like, acted up again, and then he's like, let me shake the snow globe. Let me get you all riled up for part 2.
Get some more information.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to see what they do with it. I really think this movie is a really fun ride. I don't know. I mean, and I also like the simplicity of it, where it's basically a single location film, essentially.
They do a good job of keeping it entertaining, though.
They really do. And I know that you're not a fan of the ending, and I completely understand why, because, I mean, I have mixed feelings about the ending overall. But I kind of like to think that maybe it could be so many things. Many things.
Yeah.
And there's not a wrong answer, essentially.
It's open-ended for sure.
So, I mean, if it becomes more, and Michael Dougherty is confirmed to be doing a Krampus 2, I'll definitely be watching. I'm excited to see what he does, because who doesn't love Christmas horror? Who doesn't love holiday horror? Am I right?
I'd say people who don't like horror movies.
Except for people who don't like horror movies, but I mean, who cares? They can just watch Hallmark all day. I'm not gonna hate. I love Hallmark.
Okay.
But yeah. So overall, what would you give this movie as a rating?
I've been thinking about. I'm bouncing between 2 different ratings, but I think I'll solidly stand on a C+.
That is really low.
I was thinking about B-, but I think I struggle. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm talking passionately about the ending. I struggle with it too hard for me to give it a B-. So I think it's a greatly made film. The ending just really leaves me feeling a way that I don't enjoy feeling. So that's why I have to bump it all the way down to C+.
That is a not appreciated answer, but that's your opinion, and you're not technically wrong because it's your opinion. Okay, my rating is I give it an A+, because it's fun and it's whimsical and holidays and horror and humor and creepy imagery and evil toys, and I was scared because Jack in the Box is creepy as hell.
I gotta say, like, I feel like a lot of heart came into this movie, and I think maybe that's a hallmark of Michael Dougherty, and just like all the passion that he has for like the vibe, the aesthetic, or the imagery, the characterizations of these like monsters.
I do love that, and the fact that they used a majority of practical effects. You just can't beat that. Like, that literally is putting heart and soul into something to create a creature. You're crafting something. Like, and the puppetry that they have to do to make these like movements happen that we see on screen, because it looks seamless. Love it. It's really exciting, and I hope to see more creatures, more evil toys, all of the things. Maybe we get another Jack in the Box. I'll be creeped out, but I'll be excited about it. That is Krampus. Don't be bad, and he won't come.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Catch us on socials at Fright Flat Pod. We got some clips up. We got some funnies. Follow our scripted bonus channel, Fright Risk, on YouTube.
Yes.
Email us if you want, frightflightpod@gmail.com. Send us any questions. We'll reply to you.
Send us movie suggestions that you want us to cover. If you have questions about potential franchises, you want to be a guest on the podcast, we'll make it happen somehow. We'll make it work.
Yeah. Thank you for coming over and checking us like all our holiday episodes. We only have one more.
We only have one more for 2023, which with that being said, we wanted to share some fun like statistics with you guys because we appreciate you and we want to thank you mostly for being part of this journey with us. It's our first year as a podcast.
Yeah, first year, and it's been quite a journey. I feel like we've learned a lot, about producing and making this happen.
Oh, yes, we've learned so much. And so we wanted to share some of our really fun statistics with you guys from our Spotify Wrapped, because everyone's doing that. It's the end of the year. We like to know our stats, how much music we listen to, all of the things. But, of course, they started including podcasts in that, which is so fun.
Our top episode is the first episode of the podcast, Scream. It's very important to me, like when we made the podcast, to have a good first episode, and I think we did accomplish that.
I think we did.
I think we didn't know what we were doing at all.
Not.
First time doing the thing. But I do think people who are first checking out the podcast, I'm happy to note that like if they go back to the first one, they'll have a good time. And I think it's a good introduction to us.
I think so too. And the humor that we bring.
Apparently it streamed 261% more than our average episode.
Woo-hoo.
So if anybody listening to now has never listened to our first episode, it's fun. I will say it's long. It's like a 2-hour long episode.
We've definitely gotten better about cutting things down, but those movies are just so like heavy, jam-packed with the plot.
Yeah,
so
there was just a lot to talk about. Apparently, we've been streamed in 4 different countries, with the good old USA being our top country, garnering 89% of our total streams.
That's crazy.
So thank you, America. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, America.
Our listeners also listen to TV and film, sports, and comedy.
That's kind of shocking, especially the sports part. I don't know why my brain is shocked by that.
I think there is a crossover between people who like sports and people who like horror.
Really?
I've come across, yeah. They typically, if you like one, it's probably you might like the other.
That's strange. I've never heard that, but I think the comedy that makes sense because let's be honest, we're pretty funny. No?
I wish. Apparently maybe to the viewers at home, but we struggle with that. We have that little bit of imposter syndrome sometimes.
I don't have imposter syndrome when it comes to being funny. I know that I'm funny.
Yeah, you're the comedian. Our top listeners' genres were pop, rock, and rap.
Now that makes sense.
Pretty diverse, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, love that.
It says our listeners apparently told our friends about us.
Yeah.
Or their friends about us.
Word of mouth. That's how we get the word out.
Our podcast was shared 80% by direct link, which is very convenient. Surprised with 7% Snapchat. So you Snapchatters out there that are sharing our podcast, thank you. I'm surprised.
I know that I may have shared it I think one time,
yeah.
And that may have been the only time that I shared it. So I don't know who else is sharing it via Snapchat, but thank you.
Scream, of course, is our most shared episode. Thank you, everybody who rates the podcast. We don't tell you to do it often.
Yes,
but we do have a 5.0, a full 5.
Yeah, full 5. Keep rating, keep following, and sharing the episodes, because that's how we grow a fan base. And then with more fans like you who support us, we can make more, we can make merchandise. We can do all of these fun things and do giveaways and all kinds of fun things to interact with you guys and to kind of reward you for being our fun supporters.
There's 13 of you guys.
Woo!
Where we are a top 10 podcast.
Woo-hoo! For
13 different people, which is awesome.
That is awesome.
I just got my podcast or my Spotify Wrapped, and our podcast wasn't on.
That's how you know, fake fan.
So
our podcast was number 1 ranked in my podcast. So yeah. I think I'm one of the top 5, I guess.
The top 13, yeah. I appreciate that, yeah. Good job.
So you gotta support yourself.
We're a top 5 podcast for 10 fans.
Woo!
That's awesome. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you 10 fans who listen to us all the time. And we're number 1 podcast for 5 fans.
I think I'm probably one of them.
You're one of them.
I'm one of the 5 fans.
I'm not one of the 5 fans, but you got to support yourself, right?
You got to support yourself.
Yeah. Top fans have listened to us 6 times more than other listeners.
Whoa.
Thank you again. You guys are the best. So thank you everybody for listening. We've been having such a good time making the podcast this year. I don't think we've mentioned it so far, but we are taking a bit of a break for next year. So, we have all these holidays episodes lined up. And by the time we come up with the last one next week for New Year's Evil, we're going to be away for quite a bit and working on the next year of podcasting, kind of setting us up setting ourselves up. So if any of you guys like have any like notes about like, oh, I liked it when you guys did this, do that, please let us know, comment or send us an email, frightorflightpod@gmail.com, just to let us know how we're going to be reviewing like how we did 2023 and pick out like, oh, this is how we like doing it. This is how we like making our format for the next year. So if you guys have any suggestions, please let us know. We're doing the podcast for you. So we'd like to make it as best for you as possible.
Exactly. And also on top of that, we also are going to be like taking the time off to like kind of reflect on the past year that we've done. I mean, we just essentially did that with you, but we're also going to reflect on like our goals for the podcast and ways that we can make it better for you at home, and ways that we can make it grow for long term, because this is something that we enjoy doing and we want to make something more of it. So we're excited, and I hope that like the next year brings us more fun things, and I hope that you guys enjoy it the further we go, and I hope that things continuously get better every time we do it. So.
And if anybody listens to the podcast and doesn't like it, I like thank you for hate watching. The numbers, it's worth it. So I appreciate
so worth it.
Yeah.
And we have like fun little clips and tidbits that we share every so often. Yeah. So hate watch those, and then hate share those to your friends and be like, wow, I can't believe these stupid people are talking. I love my haters, you know?
Yeah.
They fuel me with tears, but in a good way.
So thank you everybody for listening, man. I really do appreciate it. I didn't when we started uploading the episodes, I really didn't think that anybody would listen at all.
Wow.
and here we are, like a year later.
A year, it's so crazy. The year just flew by.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It did.
Feels like yesterday we just started with our first episode.
Really, and here we are. We have over 500, nearly 600 plays, just all like across all our episodes. So 600 times people click to listen to our episodes. It means so much. And a place, like I said, where I thought we would get like 0, maybe 2 a month from each of us. You know what I mean? But thank you everybody for real.
We appreciate it, because that means you like us enough to want to listen to us talk all the time.
Yeah. But we'll catch you next time.
Catch you next time with New Year's Evil. Wah, wah, wah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Fright or Flight, a Live Oaks Village production. This episode was hosted by Jeralyn Johnson and Saul Alberto Arzmendi Ochoa. Produced by me, Bailey B. Edited by Jeralyn Johnson and music composition by Saul Alberto Arzmendi Ochoa.